I've been practicing karate in my local Kempo dojo for almost a decade now and teaching there for the past 3 years. My specialty is working with the youngest class, typically 5-year-olds and up. We occasionally make exceptions for kids who are just a few weeks shy of turning 5, but that's only with our head instructor's explicit approval. On this day, we had 2 new students join the class. As an assistant instructor, I was tasked with giving them special attention while our main instructor led the rest of the class. The new students were positioned at the front. As is customary for beginners, it helps them see and learn the movements better. During the lesson, I noticed one of the new students kept turning around to look at his father. This isn't unusual for newcomers, so I gently tapped his shoulder. I asked him to please pay attention to the main instructor. The child responded that he wanted to see his dad. I reassured him that he could see his father in about 20 minutes. He agreed, and I thanked him. I stepped away to check on other students, satisfied that both newcomers had grasped the basic strikes we were practicing. A few minutes later, during our breathing exercise where everyone sits on the floor, I spotted the same student walking toward the lobby area where parents wait. I called out to him to sit back down. He claimed he needed water, so I explained that he could get water after we finished our breathing exercise, mentioning that we have specific times for water breaks. He hesitantly agreed. Something seemed off about this student. He was noticeably smaller than the others, even his brother. During our group practice, I decided to ask him directly about his age. To my shock, he replied that he was about 3 years old. The revelation stunned me, but I kept my composure to avoid making him feel like he'd done something wrong. After a class, I approached our head instructor and asked if he knew about the student's age. The head instructor was surprised, saying the father had claimed the child was almost 5. The father and his sons had already left, so we agreed to address it the next day. However, when I arrived early for the next class, I saw the father and his sons entering the lobby. I decided to address the situation directly. I approached him and confirmed he was the new student's father. When I explained that I was one of the instructors from yesterday and asked about his younger son's age, he said his son was almost 5 and had already told the head instructor that. I pointed out that his son had told me he was only 3, noting that I couldn't see why a child would lie about being younger. The father glared at his son before turning back to me and dismissively said it didn't matter since his son was already there, claiming I couldn't do anything about it. I told him that I could discuss this with our head instructor and ask why he had enrolled a 3-year-old in a class meant for 5 and up. He explained that he had signed up the brother and didn't want to leave the younger one out. I expressed understanding but emphasized our age restrictions were for safety reasons, warning that his son could get hurt. The father insisted his son was doing fine and prompted the child to agree, which he did. I knelt down to the child's level and gently explained that I wasn't saying he could never do karate, just that he needed to wait until he was a bit older to join our class. This sent the father into a rage. He yelled at me not to talk to his kid that way. When I questioned what was wrong with showing concern for his son's safety, he became more aggressive, standing up and shouting that he knew what was best for his kid and that I had no say in the matter. I tried to explain that I only wanted to ensure his son stayed interested in karate long term, but the father escalated further, threatening to fight me if I didn't shut up. I warned him that with my 10 years of karate experience, fighting wouldn't be wise. He ignored my warning and challenged me to fight right then. He threw a wild punch at me, which I easily deflected using a basic sweeping technique. I made sure to control his fall so he wouldn't hit his head on the wooden floor. Right then, our head instructor emerged from his office and demanded to know what was happening. I explained that the father had attempted to punch me after I questioned his son's age, pointing out that the security camera had caught everything. The head instructor reviewed the footage and confirmed my account. He took the father aside for a private conversation. I never learned exactly what was said, but neither the 3-year-old nor his brother returned to our dojo. We later heard they'd enrolled at another karate school nearby. A few weeks later, I ran into the instructor from that other dojo at a local martial arts event. He mentioned how a father had tried enrolling a 3-year-old by claiming he was almost 5, but they'd immediately spotted the deception and turned him away. Apparently, the father had learned his lesson about lying to martial arts instructors. We're a pretty tight-knit community after all. I work as a dispatcher for a parking company that manages lots at a major university. Our company handles everything from helping people stuck in garages to dealing with parking citations. One thing that makes our job interesting is that when students don't pay their parking tickets, they get put on academic hold, meaning they can't get transcripts, graduate, or even register for classes. This story began during one of my regular 311 shifts. Around 8 p.m., I received a call that would lead to quite an entertaining series of events. When I answered with my usual company greeting, a woman's voice responded by politely asking for help. She was surprisingly pleasant, chatty but pleasant. That's pretty rare in our line of work, especially when dealing with parking citations. I told her I'd try my best to help with whatever the issue was. What followed was a long-winded explanation about her precious son, who happened to be a backup player on the university football team. He'd parked in a handicapped space and gotten slapped with a $370 fine which he hadn't paid. The citation was under secondary appeal, which meant some restrictions were temporarily lifted, but not all. The whole dispute centered around our enforcement officer forgetting to get a picture of both the car and the handicap sign in the same frame, though we knew from other evidence that the violation was legitimate. After her lengthy explanation, she finally got to the real issue. She explained that her son had tried to pick up his family tickets for the game the day before, but they wouldn't let him because of a hold on the account. She was confused because she thought the hold was supposed to be lifted. I nearly burst out laughing when I pulled up the son's account. His last name was remarkably similar to Lord Farquaad from Shrek. I apologized and explained that as a dispatcher, I didn't really know how the hold system worked, but I could see that the hold had been lifted. I offered to email our customer service manager about the situation and have them look into it first thing in the morning. She then tried to reference our Swedish manager's name but completely butchered the pronunciation. When I told her I wasn't familiar with that name, she explained that he was the one who had placed the appeal on the citation. I corrected her pronunciation and confirmed that yes, that was indeed his department, offering to CC him on the email as well. She apologized for mispronouncing the name and eagerly accepted my offer to include him in the email. After confirming she had no other issues needing help, we exchanged pleasant goodbyes and ended the call. The next day, I discovered from my managers that this woman had been driving them crazy with the typical entitled parent routine. My angel couldn't have done this. He's such a good boy. Can't you please just let him off this one time? The weird part was that she did it all while being incredibly polite. It turned out that picking up family tickets wasn't allowed under an appealed student hold anyway. But the story doesn't end there. About a month later, I got a call from security at an off-campus garage we manage. Someone had run over and destroyed one of those state law pedestrian crossing signs. They had the license plate number, and when I looked it up, it belonged to none other than our entitled football player. I could barely contain my excitement when I told our Swedish manager about it the next day. When I showed him that these signs cost anywhere from $330 and up, the total repair quote came to $500 because the sign was mounted with steel cables that had to be re-drilled and reinstalled. The son first denied everything, but when we mentioned the video footage, he changed his tune. Then he tried claiming the sign only cost $20, and that's all he'd pay. When that didn't work, he ran crying to his mother again. His mother tried her usual routine, but this time our manager had had enough. He told her bluntly that we had video evidence of destruction of property and would press charges, which would definitely impact her son's precious football career. Suddenly, her son became very cooperative and set up a payment plan for both the handicap citation and the $204 equipment fee. Though personally, I think the manager was too nice giving him a discount. After all this, I heard that the football coach found out about the whole incident. Apparently, he wasn't too happy about having a player who would park in handicapped spaces and destroy safety signs. The entitled son got bumped even further down the depth chart and spent the rest of the season warming the bench. I've always been good at making handcrafted items. It started as a hobby during college when I couldn't afford expensive gifts for my friends. But over the years, I've gotten pretty skilled at it. I make everything from jewelry to home decorations, and recently, I started creating pet accessories. My reputation for making these items spread through our local community, and people often request custom pieces from me. That's how I ended up at this ridiculous party. My neighbor, who I'll call Karen, invited me to her precious Pomeranian's birthday party. Yes, you heard that right. A birthday party for a dog. Now, I don't judge people for loving their pets, but what happened next was absolutely insane. The invitation came with a gift registry from luxury pet boutiques, with items ranging from $200 to $500. I thought it was a joke at first, but Karen made sure to send regular reminders in our community group chat. She would constantly message about the mandatory gift requirements, insisting that her precious baby only deserved the best. She even updated the registry with more options from Premium Pose Boutique, explicitly stating that no off-registry gifts would be accepted. Given my financial situation and my skills, I decided to make something special instead. I spent 2 weeks crafting a beautiful leather collar, hand-tooled with delicate patterns, and the dog's name in elegant script. I even added small pet-safe crystals that matched the dog's regular accessories. It was probably worth more in terms of time and materials than some of the registry items. The party itself was outrageous. Karen had transformed her backyard into what she called a puppy paradise. There was a dog-friendly cake that cost more than my weekly groceries, a hired photographer, and even a small orchestra playing classical music to cultivate her dog's sophisticated tastes. When it came time for gifts, Karen sat on a decorated chair like some sort of queen, with her Pomeranian on her lap. Each guest presented their gifts, and she made elaborate shows of appreciation for every expensive item. Then came my turn. I nervously tried to explain that I had made something special for her dog, a handcrafted leather collar. Karen immediately cut me off, demanding to know where the gift bag from Premium Paws was. When I attempted to explain that I had created the collar myself and that it took 2 weeks to make, she completely lost it. Her face turned red as she stood up, clutching her dog like I had just presented her with garbage. She started screaming about how I was giving her baby a homemade collar, comparing it to something from a flea market. She ranted about how unacceptable this was and how important this day was, pointing out that everyone else had managed to follow the registry. When I tried to defend myself by explaining the thought and effort I had put into the gift, she became even more enraged. She declared that effort didn't pay for quality and that I had completely ruined the party. Then came her most outrageous demand. Since I couldn't be bothered to bring a proper gift, she insisted that I should pay for the entire party. The other guests started shifting uncomfortably in their seats as Karen continued her tirade. She threatened that if I didn't pay for everything, the catering, the orchestra, all of it, she would make sure everyone knew what a cheap, thoughtless person I was. I was shocked into silence, but another guest came to my defense, commenting on how beautiful the collar was. Karen immediately snapped at them, telling them to stay out of what she claimed was just between her and the party ruiner. But it wasn't anymore. Karen pulled out her phone and started typing furiously, announcing that she was posting about this right then and there, promising to let everyone know how I had disrespected her baby. Within hours, she had posted a completely twisted version of events on every community Facebook group and local social media platform. She even called the small business where I sell some of my crafts, demanding they stop carrying my inferior products. But her plan backfired. People started sharing photos of the accessories I'd made for their pets. Local business owners posted about their positive experiences with my work. The owner of Premium Paws Boutique, the very store from her registry, reached out to me about potentially carrying my line of custom pet accessories. The final blow came when someone posted a video of her meltdown at the party. Her theatrical performance screaming about a beautifully crafted collar while classical music played in the background became the talk of the community. Even better, the video caught her saying she'd make me pay for everything, which became very useful when she actually tried to take me to small claims court. The judge took one look at the evidence, the ridiculous gift registry, the video of her threats, the social media harassment, and dismissed her case. He even warned her about making false claims and threats. The community's response was swift. The local pet rescue organization, which Karen had been trying to join as a board member, publicly denied her application. Her social media influencer dreams for her luxury pet lifestyle brand crumbled as the video continued to circulate. Premium Paws Boutique not only started carrying my pet accessories line but featured my work in their front window display. The centerpiece? A recreated version of the collar Karen had rejected, which became their best-selling item that season. These days, Karen still lives in the neighborhood, but she's much quieter now. She had to turn off comments on all her social media accounts, and her attempts to host more extravagant pet parties have been met with polite declinations. When the for sale sign came down at the house next door, I was excited to welcome a new neighbor to our quiet suburban street. My husband Tom and I had lived here for 8 years, raising our two children in what we'd worked hard to make into our dream home. I remember seeing the moving trucks that Saturday, a single man probably in his mid-40s methodically unloading boxes with a kind of mechanical precision that seemed odd at the time. I waited a week before bringing over my welcome cookies, chocolate chip, the same ones I make for every new neighbor. He seemed nice enough when he opened the door, if a bit intense. His eyes had this eager, hungry look that made me slightly uncomfortable, though I brushed it off as just the awkwardness of meeting someone new. He complimented my garden extensively, especially the hydrangeas I'd spent years cultivating. I noticed he'd already planted some of his own, the exact same variety, in the exact same arrangement as mine. The similarities didn't stop there. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing little changes in his yard. Each time I added something to my garden or rearranged my decorations, he would mirror it within days. The same wind chimes appeared on his porch. Identical garden gnomes showed up in the same positions. Even our custom-made mailbox, a wedding anniversary gift from Tom, suddenly had a twin next door. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe he just had similar taste. Maybe he was new to gardening and using our yard as inspiration. But then I started noticing him watching us. He was always there, behind his curtains or puttering in his yard, his attention fixed on our family. I began keeping the blinds closed more often, started hurrying the kids inside when I'd spot him at his window. The day he approached me about the children, my blood ran cold. There was something deeply unsettling about the way he talked about them, like they were characters in a story he was trying to join. When he mentioned the play structure he'd built, an exact copy of ours, and offered to babysit, every maternal instinct I had screamed danger. I shut down the conversation immediately and rushed inside, my hands shaking as I called Tom at work. Things escalated from there. I started noticing my husband's clothes appearing on our neighbor, the same brands, the same styles, sometimes identical items. He bought the same car as ours. The kids started having nightmares about the man who watches us. We stopped letting them play in the front yard. I caught myself checking and rechecking the locks at night, jumping at every sound. The breaking point came when I was sorting through recent photos on my phone and noticed him in the background of almost every outdoor family picture, always watching, always hovering just within frame. That's when we called the police. Tom confronted him first, trying to handle it man to man. I stood on our porch, ready to call 911 if needed, and listened as our neighbor tried to explain himself. His words about wanting to be part of the family sent chills down my spine. When the police arrived, they found evidence that horrified us. Photographs of our family, detailed notes about our routines, our habits, our schedules. The restraining order brought some peace, but we still felt violated. When he finally moved away, we learned more about his story, about his wife's death, their struggles to have children, his unprocessed grief. Part of me felt sympathy for his pain, but it didn't excuse what he'd done to our family. We spent months in family therapy, working through the trauma of feeling watched, targeted, unsafe in our own home. It's been 2 years now. We've kept the house, though we considered moving. The new neighbors are a retired couple who keep to themselves. Sometimes I still catch myself scanning windows for watching eyes, or hurrying the kids inside when a car slows down on our street. The incident changed something fundamental about how we live in our home, how we view our privacy, how we interact with strangers. The hardest part wasn't the copying or even the stalking. It was the realization that our perfect family life, the very thing he coveted, had become a source of fear and anxiety for us. We'd worked so hard to build this life, and for a while, his obsession tainted it. It took time to reclaim our sense of normalcy, to enjoy our yard again, and to stop looking over our shoulders.